Hello, my friends. I am sitting inside today because the internet has been pretty spotty, and last week's show got interrupted due to the spotty internet. So today I'm going to focus in on some core principles and some core tactics and strategies that will help you get from wherever you are to wherever you want to be. Right? So it's going to be a fun show. And first, I want to start with presence. Right? People say, Jim, you have a lot of patience because I've been working at this mission for so long. And I say, no, I really don't. I am not a very patient person. I practice presence. What is presence? Well, let's experience presence together right now. Right? Take a deep breath with me, please. Take another breath, and as you feel your lungs expanding, hold that breath just a little bit at the top, and then exhale. Now, as you're breathing very relaxed and intentional, put your feet flat on the floor. Raise your hands up to the sky or your palms and feel this now. Feel the presence. How does it feel to feel now? How does it feel to feel the frequency, the energy, the vibration in your body? How does it feel to feel your pinky? Can you feel? Can you shut your eyes and feel your pinky? It's okay if you can't. Right? Don't get frustrated. It's a practice. It's an art and a practice. Deep breath. How does it feel to feel the space between yourself and the computer or the phone? How does it feel to feel that space? The intention of this word, of this question, of this language is to get you to put your attention in this exact now and feel the space around you. Feel the space within you. And when we do this, we recognize that we are all of the space. We are the space within, and we are the space around. We are infinite. How does it feel to feel inspired? When I ask that question, something happens where I feel like sitting up straighter. I feel more alive. How does it feel to feel more alive? And how do you feel right now? Do you notice things in your body when you do this? Do you notice tightness or stress or anxiety? Well, if you do, change the name from anxiety to awareness. It's an energy field. Everything is energy, frequency, and vibration. Everything. Right? That's what, not to limit it, but God is everything. It's all of the energy, frequency, and vibration that is the foundation of our manifested world, right? And everything else, right? God is omnipotent and omnipresent. That means infinite. What I experience God as, and I grew up in Minnesota, so I use the word God. Other people grew up other places and they use different words. I don't hate them or think that they're insane because they grew up in a different place and use a different word. I grew up a Christian, so I follow those teachings because they're beautiful, right? I also am not such a fan of the religious doctrine and dogma, right? But that's just me. The point is to feel the energy, the frequency, the vibration of ourselves and everything. Because when we do, that's when the magic really happens. When we are present, that's when we can notice the things that we otherwise couldn't notice. That's when we can get the ideas that will elevate, evolve, and ascend our awareness and our consciousness. If we are living in the past with regret or shame or embarrassment, feel those energy fields. Those are nothing but energy. It's a low energy. The feeling of shame or regret or embarrassment or anger or envy or gluttony or greed or pride or wrath or sloth or any of these energies that bring us out of the present, those are lower energy forms, lower frequencies, right? Freedom. Freedom for yourself to enjoy life. Freedom to be healthy and happy starts at a base of presence and willingness and courage. Right? The freedom to be who you truly want to be, the freedom to be your best self starts now. Right now, which is all there is now. Everything else is a hallucination. It's an illusion, right? If you're spending time down the rabbit hole, looking at all of the insanity of the world, and you've got a pit in your stomach, or you've got heartburn, or your mind is about to explode with all the insanity going on around the world, ask yourself this question: what's great about this? Now, at first, that question may simply not compute to our computers, right? It just doesn't make sense because there's a lot of suffering. But we are in the Great Awakening. That's what's happening now. We are in the expansion of human consciousness, of the consciousness, the awareness of God. God is an expansive energy system. I once saw a visual representation of infinity, of exponential growth, and all of the pieces of the puzzle that I really had not been able to even conceive of. They just went zoop, and it was like, there are systems that are regenerative and expansive. There are ways of thinking that are regenerative and expansive, ways of being that are regenerative and expansive and add life. And then there are the opposites. And that every now we get to choose, once we are aware of the choice, right? Everything starts with awareness, and awareness can only happen in the now. With a mind that's free of programming, free of thought circles, free of thought hurricanes. A lot of people are experiencing these thought hurricanes, and then something happens when the pain, the suffering is so great, or the seed of awareness has been planted so strategically and so perfectly that all of a sudden everything comes back to the present, right? The gift from God is the present. How corny is that? And how real is that, my friends? Deep breath, feet on the ground, feel the energy, the transfer of energy between your feet and the ground. Now, if you have shoes on, or if you're sitting on a floor like I'm sitting on, maybe the transfer isn't quite as great, right? Maybe while you're doing this, if you have your phone and you can take your shoes off and you can stand barefoot on the ground, you can feel it even deeper. When I walk outside my house, my family and I, we live 100% off the grid except for internet, right? And this grid is very pervasive. Everything else is around us. We live in, well, my vision of the Garden of Eden. And by the way, you're invited. We live in a place, and I'll take the phone here in a minute. First I want to get through this process, but here in just a few minutes, I will take the phone and I will walk outside just real close because I've got decent internet here and I don't want to mess up the communication. So I'll show you what I'm talking about. When we walk outside the doors here, we live in the Garden of Eden, a place that I imagine, right? Do we know if this was real? It's irrelevant because it should be, right? And when I talk about the Garden of Eden, I'm simply talking about a place of infinite abundance, of life, of colors and sounds and sights and smells and tastes and touch, a sensory explosion of wellness and presence and life and butterflies and bees and birds and the sounds. It's like a symphony. People come here and they go, oh my God, it feels so good here. This is paradise. And 2 years ago, it wasn't paradise. It was pretty nice because we happened to be on a lake and we're surrounded by forest, right? It's beautiful. But we had about 20 acres of sand with no life. There were no bees. There were no butterflies. There was very little birds. I mean, you could hear them in the distance, right? But through the practice that we help with, that we help you with, the practice of permaculture, we help design spaces from wherever they are to paradise. You know, when we hear the stories of the Garden of Eden, right, a place of just radical abundance, we are led to believe, we are programmed to believe by some sort of live backwards, right? The unsustainable live backwards, evil, right? Let's just look at it from its core. There are things that I was referring to earlier that are regenerative and add to life. And there are ways of being and practicing and thinking that are degenerative, that are unsustainable, and that take away from life. Right? And what is life? It's presence, it's the experience, the feeling, the being of presence and of vibration and frequency. And with some practice, we recognize that this is a temporary illusion, right? James Patrick Gale is just a character in a play. There's nothing here of substance except for a bunch of programs and a bunch of temporary systems. But the operating system, the foundation of you and I and everything we see and feel and taste and touch and smell is infinite and expansive. We are here on this plane to learn that. And once we become present and we start practicing regeneration and presence and something about listening and being here for the wisdom of our Creator. Well, I'll get right to the point of this. The big point that I am so inspired by is I see a clear path to peace on earth. I see a clear path. Will it manifest? That's kind of irrelevant. I am going to stay on the path and do everything within the limited abilities of Jim Gale to connect with the unlimited abilities of God. Now, I'm going to turn this messaging thing off because there we go. And what is God? Again, to be simple about it, because you can't explain the infinite in words. Presence. The Creator. Source. Right? Whatever divine intelligence that surrounds us, which truly names are just ridiculous relative to the infinite nature of it. How do we achieve peace on earth? Have you ever heard people talk like this? Well, I have, because this is the people that I reach for and search for, and these are my teachers. Well, it starts in your heart, in your spirit, in your energy field, in your vibration. It starts with you. Be the change. And we are talking about how all day. This whole talk is about how. Be the change by first being present. And then the awareness expand. And then where do good ideas come from? When you have an inspired idea, an idea that makes you feel alive and great and motivated. A new idea that blows your mind. Where do those ideas come from? Same place. They do not come from a stressed out mind. And that's why fear, false evidence appearing real, right? That acronym, a lot of people just slough it off as corny again. But it really is false evidence. Like people say, no, and they hold on to their fear and they will argue for their fear. And I will share with them that I cannot take away your fear, only you can, right? So when we step into this moment with pure faith and courage, and we ask for these ideas to come, then they will. And I share this often, and it cannot be shared too much. In fact, every time I share it, and by the way, you learn about 15% of what you read, you learn about 15% of what you write, but you learn about 90% of what you teach. So every time I say this concept, I learn from it. And it was best articulated by Napoleon Hill. If you haven't read the book Think and Grow Rich, it's also on audio tape. It's an oldie but a goodie. After a lifetime of study of the most successful manifestors in the world, Napoleon Hill deducted, whatever the mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve. I see a clear path to peace on earth. And I'm going to share a strategy, I feel, I experience, I know it's a relatively simple strategy. Now, the word relatively is placed there for a reason. War is not simple. Fighting and struggling and hating is not simple, right? People say it's hard to change while they're suffering from cancer and diabetes and heart disease and hate and rage and pride and envy and all of these low energy fields. And people say it's hard to change. Isn't it a lot harder not to change? Ponder that for a second. It's hard to be present. It's a lot harder not to be present. Jim, what about rattlesnakes? Don't you fear black widow spiders? Don't you fear? No, not at all. I might have a moment, an instant of fear. And the fear becomes the catalyst for awareness. The fear becomes a tool. That's all fear is a tool to bring us back to presence. And my friends, this is scientific, it's logical, it is spoken in so many different ways. Fear is a contraction of your ability to solve the problem. It's a contraction of spirit and energy and frequency, right? Anxiety is a block from the present, from the now. And when we are present, we take a deep breath and we ask with love and joy and sincerity, what's great about all of this suffering going on in the world right now? What's great about my own suffering? Then we rise above it, and when we ask with presence, then the answer to those questions will come from God. And the answers that have come to me are, we are waking up faster right now than any time in his story. And of course, his story is a lie, right? But we know this, we feel this, we experience this. People are communicating now because of this ability to communicate. I'm communicating right now to dozens, if not hundreds of people. And maybe thousands of people might see this message and might experience this message, might feel this message. right? It's one thing to see it and hear it, but can you feel this message? Because when you feel it, the feeling is the gateway to the now, right? Like I felt I had an itch in my nose. Fear is closing the gates. Anxiety, hatred, judgment, belief system, attitudes are closing the gate. The feeling is opening the gate. How do you feel right now? And scan your body. Go into the places that you feel a tightness. This is real, my friends. In the world of illusion, in the world of this false reality or this temporary simulated reality, in fact, this thought just comes to mind. So a book was written called Molecules of Emotion, right? And I love emotion, the word represented as energy in motion, emotion, energy in motion, right? When we feel an energy in motion, let's say a trauma happens. And these traumas, my friends, they could be all around us all the time. It's how we react, represent, and experience the trauma. If a trauma happens in our life and all of humanity's root cause of all of our suffering is trauma, and we stop that energy, right? Something happens and we go, ugh, and we bind up and we close up and we go, shit, I can't handle that. I don't want to deal with that. No. We just stored that trauma in our tissue. And this, by the way, is why Dr. Wolf's strategy, the Wolf non-surgical, is one of the most profound and powerful healing tools that I've experienced. And I've experienced it. Wow, did I experience it? And it helped to open me up. And there's multiple ways to do this, right? The ultimate way is by recognizing that this physical body isn't even a base reality. This is a temporary reality. And that we are 100% made up of energy, frequency, and vibration. And a little story to go along with that. So I know, I've experienced that the combination of these types of therapies like Wolf non-surgical and the deep dive into the areas that we are suffering. And this happened to me about maybe a year and a half ago. I was going through a massive transition. And thank you so much for Dr. David Hawkins. He wrote the book, the energy, frequency, and vibration. Just took my phone right off the thing. He wrote another fundamental book for me, Power versus Force, in which I really fully understood the power of the energy and frequency all around us. And in that book, he described an experience, or maybe it was a later book, he described an experience, a process of shedding the pain. He said it was the most excruciating thing he'd ever been through. I experienced it. It was about a year and a half ago. And I was going through these interesting God-given struggles. Everything was just not working the way that I was trying to force it to work. the flow was not flowing. And a lot of folks are experiencing this right now. And it was a Friday night. And I started feeling really sick. I started getting hot, really hot. And I laid in bed maybe 3, 4 in the afternoon. By 10, 11 o'clock that night, I had what felt like 107 temperature. It was so hot that I could feel the heat radiating off the pillow back at me. Like, it was epic. I was sweating. I was drinking a bunch of water, sweating. It was like a bathtub draining. And I didn't sleep hardly at all that night. The next day, Saturday, I was in bed all day Saturday. Saturday night, I did not sleep hardly at all. Sunday came, and I was thinking, okay, I'm getting over this. The fever was starting to subside. It was starting to go down to maybe 102, 103. And by the way, I would never take any type of pharmaceutical for anything, quite frankly, but especially to stop a fever, because I know that God didn't mess up, right? There was something going on inside me where God said, here, we're going to burn that shit out. And he did. It did. The word he is so funnily misplaced there. So then Sunday night comes around, and all of a sudden I was getting this pains mostly in what felt like my kidneys and my lower back, but it was radiating throughout my body. And this pain was so intense that it started out, and I was so tired. It started out where I could sleep maybe for a few minutes, 5, 10, 15 minutes. And then I'd wake up and I'd be in agony, and I would twist, and I would try to stretch my back, and the last thing I would ever do is call 911 and go to a hospital. Like, man, I think they would have killed me. I had my little dog. I said, hi, it's okay, Lily. I'm having a fun experience. So it kept going and going and going. It kept going. Okay, you want to say hi? You want to say hi? This is my Lily dog. She's been through some traumas in her life too. 3 near-death experiences. One was mine that she helped me with. Okay, you go down. And it kept getting more intense and more intense. And pretty soon, it was like, well, the only thing I can relate it to is when my wife was having our baby girls. And the first one is Isabella. Really traumatic experience. The doctors told her, I mean, we were so ignorant back then, 15 years ago. And the doctors did all this pre-bullshit, which is all wrong. The body knows what to do, right? You don't incentivize, you don't try to speed up a divine process, right? Well, that's what we did, and it caused a lot of pain. Anyway, I was going through this experience, and I couldn't sleep for more than 10 or 20 seconds because I'd have to get up and I'd have to stretch out. It was like my whole body was biting up. And I had learned enough about meditation up to that point, and about presence, and about going into it. That's what I did. I focused very intensely on going into the pain in every conceivable way, right? Visually, auditorily, gustatorily, kinesthetically, which is what ended up being the thing. Olfactory, I was like doing all these neuro-linguistic things. I was all, okay, go in. And I could see the orange and the red and the movement and all these crazy colors, mostly orange and red, actually. And then I just went into the frequency of it. I went with all of my awareness into it. And the pain, the suffering, the agony, the tightness, it all went. I saw it happen. I experienced it happen where it just went into like this frequency and all the colors just went. And then I could see this blue color. It started with a dark blue and then it ended up more of a lighter blue. And it just went. And I slept. I slept really good. And I woke up the next day and everything was different. I could see more clearly. We are all going through these struggles. And these struggles are great. You know, one of the masters said life is suffering. I used to fight that sentiment until I recognized that relative to experiencing oneness with God, relative to that, life is suffering. When we ascend to presence, to consciousness, to awareness, ascension is all of these words are just words. When we feel now, when we feel the presence, the synchronicity, the energy, frequency, and vibration of this now of God, when we let go of our belief systems, our BS, our programming, and be here now, then for selfish reasons, we desire to bring life, to add to life, to expand. And that's what's happening right now. This is a time of divergence. People that are stuck in the model, in the program, they are being led to, deceived by evil, which is really just another component of God. It's an unsustainable loop system. And this deception, they say Satan is the adversary, right? The devil never lived. It's backwards. Everything we see going on right now is part of a divine game of expansion of God's consciousness, of awareness, of energy and frequency, right? This theory of the Big Bang, I'm not supporting or denying that, but think of it as an expansion that we are part of, we are assisting with by being present, by being here and being connected to the mind of God through the now, and then listening to the ideas, right? One of my favorite concepts, Victor Hugo. There's one thing stronger than all of the armies of the world, and that is an idea whose time has come. We can only experience these God-given ideas when we are present to experience them. So, my friends, how does it feel to feel present? How does it feel to experience the gift from God? How does it feel to be, to live inspired. If you'd like more, if you'd like to be the change, if you'd like to serve yourself, your family, your friends, our community, and our world, it starts with you. Commit, intend, desire to live inspired. Love you. Have a great day.